Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the one, the only, the Fan Show. I'm your host, as always, the T-Man, Richard T-Man, and the man in the other box, well, he believes that a hot dog is actually a sandwich. Where did they get these people from, man? He is Malcolm McCoy. Father Malk, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. And I mean, you can't argue. Hot dog is definitely in the sandwich family. Some would even call it a sub.
Dude, that's a real debate online. Like there's been when we had the whole COVID thing, I started posting on the fan show's page daily debate. And I would just
Yeah.
scroll through the internet just to see, I mean, there was some easy ones like, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, which we're going to talk about a little later, but there were some easy ones like were you team Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or,
Hmm.
Pepsi or Coke, things like that. But then, you start kind of going further down the rabbit hole and you're like, okay, so there's people that think legitimately that a hot dog is a sandwich and they are willing to die on that hill. And I'm like, this is a thing. Okay. So we got another one, but that's it's good fun. There's stuff that you stir the pot with, and that's one of those things where you're like, is this really a crowd or a thing I want to engage? If people are that serious about where the hot dog is on the food
That's
chart.
funny. That's funny for sure.
Oh, so here we are, episode 492. We got to start thinking of episode 500 ideas, just because that is
Yeah.
that is coming up. I do know what I want to do for our last one of the regular season of the IFL regular season. I think I want to give a Zoom link invite and give them all a heads up, so it's not just like random, but give everybody that's been on the show a Zoom link
Hmm.
invite and just see who shows up.
For
It's
sure.
just crash the party. That might be the way
That's
that we
fun.
round out the regular season. But
A little free for all.
yeah, that could get crazy. Did
Uh,
have very good response for if people want me and Malk to invade the championship game. So I'll put in the request to see if we get approved, and that's it's been a minute since I've been approved for that in the IFL world. So we'll have to
I
see.
could imagine.
But also, any help to get me and Malk down there would be greatly appreciated. There's always sponsorship opportunities for everything that the fan show does. So if you have a
Mhm.
business or a company or something that you want to have represented, I'm all ears. We'll talk about it. But so that was the week after the episode, and now after the weekend, we like to start every show off with some good, bad, and funny. For me, Malk, you already know this. I've got two goods and a bad. I don't really have anything funny that happened. Not that there wasn't funny stuff that happened, just not like noteworthy for
Mhm.
our segment here. So the good, props to the Stallions, man. Who would have
Mhm.
thought that we would be in the year 2024 and have not only three championships for spring league football, but a
Right.
three-peat champion that is the Birmingham Stallions. I mean, the AAF, that's a whole horror story. I was actually featured in a documentary that my buddy from Full Sail did that went behind the scenes and looked at everything that went wrong with the alliance. And it's just a heartbreaking story, especially for those athletes that thought their lives instantly changed. But you have
Yeah.
the USFL, and then you have the XFL, and both had to battle COVID, right? And once their seasons got cut short, you didn't know if they were going to come back because it was like all they needed was an excuse, any excuse. And you're like, you got a pandemic, there's your excuse. But they did. And then they joined forces. Like, first, they finished the season, which is how you crown the Birmingham Stallions as the USFL champions. So they each finished the season, and then they merged for the UFL. And Birmingham has won three times. They are your three-peat champions, and it is just, I think it's great for football. You can call them a dynasty if you want. I don't know how much weight that holds, but good for them. And then the Celtics, they're 18-time champions. They're champions of the NBA world, which, I mean, my God, 18, that's just a lot.
That is. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
If you're a
Man.
Boston fan, man, that's got to be great, right?
For sure, for sure. Actually, I think I heard on the radio. I forget the team who they were tied with previously, but this championship puts them at the top as far as most NBA championships won. So I mean, yeah, Boston, they're definitely on their high horse right now.
Yeah, so props to the Celtics and the Stallions. Really props to everybody involved with the UFL. I know that it's both the XFL and USFL working together, but to have 2 seasons of USFL football, which is where the Stallions come from originally, and they're that
Mm-hmm.
champion twice, and now to be it a third time over the XFL, I think it's just nobody loses, right? Like everybody wins in that scenario. So it's good to see spring football is so strong. Were there any other champions crowned over the weekend? No, none that really come to mind. So we will move on now and we will talk about my bad. And that is, and you're going to laugh at this, partly because uh, you're kind of involved. It's Brandon Ayuk, man. Like
Oh
this
yeah.
happens every offseason, and I don't understand it for the life of me. Like, I get it if you're a guy that's on like on a Washington or on a New York, the Jets or Giants, or is on an Arizona or a team that's like not in the picture. And of course, anything can happen any given Sunday, any given season. But you just went to the Super Bowl. And yeah,
Mhm.
you're one of the guys. Like on that offense, which has a lot of weapons, you're one
Yeah,
of the guys. And
for
to
sure.
behave like this when you have a legitimate shot of going right back there, possibly, I just don't understand that mentality because there were guys that wanted to go to New England for years, right? Like they weren't going
Hmm.
anywhere on their team. Their quarterback just got hurt or traded. Free agency comes up, and they're like, "Oh, New England's a landing spot." Yeah, with Randy Moss, he ended up there,
Yeah.
and
Hell yeah.
I this is like the opposite. And so he's talking with your guys' quarterback in Washington saying San Francisco doesn't want him. It's like we want you to just not be an ass about it. Like, I mean, as a fan, like check the attitude because I get
Mhm.
that guys are getting paid and you want to be paid accordingly. There's markets and whatnot, but this just is a bad look. He's been in the headlines for this, I think, 4 or 5 different times and has yet to really address any of it. So it's like he's just letting it run, and I hate it. I loved BA, loved everything that he brought to the table, and all the things that he's done for San Francisco and their years of success with him part of the team. But at this point, it's like, dude, I got nothing for you. I hate it, and I don't know if you've had experience with that with athletes and what drives them to behave certain ways, but
Mhm.
man, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's something that his on the field talent is one thing to consider, for teams, not just Washington, but any team, any prospective team he could where he can end up. But also one thing that a lot of athletes don't take into consideration, I think, is that front offices pay attention to your character and stuff like that too. A lot of players, I'm not accusing Brandon Ayuk of this. I'm not sure how he is off the field, but I remember Stephon Diggs was in trouble. Well, in trouble with the fans quite a bit for this. Like they accuse him of being like a me type of guy. And by that I mean you got players who are willing to, take pay cuts or, do whatever needs to be done to benefit the team as a whole. But when you have guys being looked at the way he's being portrayed in the media right now, it's kind of like he doesn't really care about the well-being of the team. It's more so what can I get paid or what can this person do for my stats or whatever the case is. I mean, I feel like as an athlete, there is room to kind of be a little selfish, but at the same time, it doesn't look good in the media at all, like you said. So, um, I mean, as a Washington fan, I'd love to have him over there in the in
I
the
knew you would.
in the maroon and gold, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see, man, for sure. I don't know what's in his future at this point.
So that's my two goods and a bad. Like I said, no funny. What about you? What was your weekend like?
So same here. I don't have a funny necessarily. It's a lot, like you said, a lot of stuff to laugh at, especially when we're discussing those championships. But uh no, I just got a good and bad for this week. Good, being over here in Maryland. Let's talk about Javante Davis, the still undefeated, undisputed champion. this past Saturday protected his title against Frank Martin in I want to say a ninth round knockout. Man, it's just it's crazy looking at these guys. He's from out of Baltimore, Maryland, so it's kind of close to home, for me. And he started gaining a lot of notoriety like when he started reaching those upper teens and wins and stuff. And um just watching the guy fight, man, it's like a work of art. I love sports altogether, but just watching someone who's almost like completely perfected their craft, like it's almost like when you go into the fight, there's no doubt that he's gonna win. It's just when he'll do it and how it'll happen. So I mean, that was fun. I went to a fight party and watched it, and it was everybody was just off the wall when he knocked the guy out. So that was fun to watch, especially being, like I said, a Maryland resident. Bad staying in the realm of combat sports. Conor McGregor was forced to drop out of his main event fight in UFC 303 against Michael Chandler. It was supposed to take place on the
Oh, I heard
29th.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, this was due to a training injury or something like that.
Mm.
A lot of people were looking forward to it because this is the first fight he would have had since 2020. It's been a few years now, but he's had the most recent one. You may have seen footage of it. It wasn't pretty at all, but he actually snapped his shin or something like that. It was like a leg kick that just landed wrong, and it literally, like, the bone broke. It was almost like a compound fracture. But yeah, this was supposed to be his big coming back fight. And like I said, the place was packed out. Everybody was looking forward to it. It's supposed to be a good one for sure. But because of an injury, an unspecified injury at that, he was forced to withdraw. And his camp was disappointed about it. Michael Chandler, of course, was disappointed. He actually took to social media, was like, yeah, he said he was drinking away his disappointment. He had some shots on like Instagram Live. It was funny. It was funny, but I mean, yeah, speedy recovery to Conor McGregor. For those Conor McGregor fans who are looking forward to it, I hope this doesn't mean the end of his career, but a lot of people are trying to, frame it in that way since he is in his I think late 30s now. It's not it's kind of an uphill battle in any sport when you're trying to bounce back from an injury and you're when you're a little up in age. So, we'll see how that goes, but that's mine for the week. My good and bad.
Well, as I sit here right now, I think I do have a funny that just came up, and that is I got to know what store sells a quarter zip comforter combo because you match your comforter in the background and your quarter zip right now. That is a bold combo. I don't know if that's
Yes,
Kohl's,
sir.
but man, that is thinking next level. That's the year 2030 they're
Hey,
living in.
see, that's why I like you, Rich. I was hoping you would have noticed. You know what I'm saying? Not only am I comfortable right now, but I gotta be comfortable when I lay down too. So, and believe it or not, they were bought separately. They just happen to be like the the same. I love a good leopard print. So I mean, I put it together this way, and I had to compliment my fit with the with the drapes. So yeah, well, I'm
Wow.
glad you noticed. It's funny, man.
Okay, well, that is our good, bad, and funny and marketing opportunity for pennies, Kohl's, Sears, whoever wants it. It's there, man. Take it. And that's brought
Hey,
to you
holla at
by
me.
F3 Energy. F3 Energy, fuck yeah, let's go. Ooh, peach. Ooh, yeah, that's good. My fit today
Yeah.
is brought to you by the Green Bay Blizzard, the
Ah,
new
okay.
number one team in my power rankings. I finally got some swag courtesy of Coach Roberson. So
Mhm.
we are go Green Bay for the rest of the season and go some other teams. But I mean, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel this Green Bay vibe right now. In fact, that brings us to our week recap or IFL headlines. Which Green Bay is the new number one in my power rankings. They have clinched the first playoff spot of the 2024 season, which is huge for them. First time, I believe, since 2018 or 2019, but it's been a minute, and they've been on the cusp several seasons. And for them to come out, have the longest active winning streak, have a quarterback that's in, well, at least for me and Malk, the MVP conversation. And at this point, I don't see how Myler could not be in that conversation. They got some studs on defense. It's just clicking in all phases. If you're a fan of the league, if you're a fan of this sport, then you're a fan of what the Blizzard are doing right now, because it's just fun to watch a team, be so close and now really start to put it together. So props to
For
them.
sure.
They did clinch that Friday, so it was a great weekend for them. The end of season is going to be great for me and Malk. I'm excited for us to look back at all the things that we said were going to be a certain way and that we were right about, because there's been a few
Mm-hmm.
times that people have been like, wait, what? And some of it was, when we talked about Max Myler possibly being MVP, and it looks like you can't really leave him out of the conversation now. And Green Bay being a team to watch, Mass being kind of pretenders. But there's a lot. I can't wait to bring it up. So San Diego, Arizona, and San Antonio all won, which does
Mm-hmm.
not make things any clearer in the Western Conference. In fact, Arizona, because they beat Naz, now leapfrogs them and is in the third playoff spot. And then Naz is in the fourth playoff spot. So it goes Bay Area, Vegas, Arizona, Naz. And
Mm-hmm.
technically, San Antonio is like a full game behind Arizona and Naz and San Diego's like a half game because they've played one less than Arizona and Naz. But it's starting to get really clustered in that pack. So San Diego beat Bay Area, which
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned when we
Great.
did our little conference breakdown and the remaining playoff spots and who might get it. I said they're going to need to do it at least once because they play them twice. So they've got the
Mm-hmm.
one out of the way. It did come down to a missed field goal. We went from either a great or terrible weekend for kickers to a terrible weekend for kickers, man. Wow. Like, and there's something that I'm going to bring up for you to touch on as a player, Malcolm, that I think really needs some attention here,
Mm-hmm.
specifically about that. But anyway, so 43-42 is your final there. So San Diego one game closer to clinching a playoff spot, but Vegas finally snapped out of their free fall, and they have
Mm-hmm.
continued to lock up the number 2 spot. But it was against DC, and DC is overhauling their coaching staff currently. They have parted ways with Fred Griggs, and so
Mm-hmm.
now Lachlan, who was with Billings, the Outlaws, is their new head coach. So Vegas over DC 53-39, kind of what we expected there. Arizona
Yeah,
over
not at all.
Naz 56-49, not nearly as close as you thought it would have been. Arizona pretty much had this one in control the whole game. So the West playoff picture gets a little bit more muddled, but Arizona definitely controlling their fate, which I think was something that you and I weren't sure that they would do. They might have to rely
Mm-hmm.
on other teams winning or losing to get into the postseason picture altogether. Now they're the projected number 3. San Antonio over Mass. We knew it was going to happen. 52-51. Castronova needs to be not just in the talks for Offensive Player of the Year, but he has now shifted into the MVP conversation,
Easily.
especially if they make the postseason, because if he's hurt, which he told me that he was, like his non-throwing shoulder, so if he's at like 75-80% and he's still putting up 314 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no picks, like this dude at 100%, I mean, my God. Like,
It's
Malk, you
crazy.
know him well. Like, this shouldn't surprise you at all.
Yeah, man, and you would think so. I've seen the man play in person. I've seen him practice, but yeah, just he's like a robot at this point, Rich. I don't know what to say, man. I mean, like you said, he's like at about 70%. Definitely not 100 with the hurt shoulder, but he's making it look easy out there, man. That's crazy. It's hard not to still be impressed by somebody like that.
But the final seconds of that game was the most exciting. So
Hmm.
Castronova throws a touchdown, one of his 6, and then they go for a 2-point conversion instead of the PAT, and they miss. Like, it's a failed conversion, but there's a flag, so they redo it. And so then they redo the 2 point conversion, so they get two cracks at it now, and they finally get it. And then it was a
Mm.
missed field goal from Mass, but really, I mean, that's like Superman Sam right there. That's some Castronova MVP worthy stuff, to be able to do that, knowing that like you have to keep winning to lock up a postseason spot, and that you're currently on the outside looking in. So that was good by them. Iowa over QC. This one I knew probably could go either way. I really thought Quad City would have it, but 28-27, 1 point. Kaplan missed the field goal to win there. So there's another
Mhm.
missed field goal. That's the third one of the weekend, to win. It's just crazy that you go from these games where these guys are getting carried off the field for walk-off field goal wins, and now they're missing ones that are well within their range. So it just goes to show you that you can't really count on anything in this league like you can in the NFL. And then your last games that really weren't any surprise. Well, maybe for some, the Tulsa over SF, 55-41 there. Frisco over
Mhm.
Tucson, no surprise, 35-18. I feel bad for Tucson. They got to figure it out. And then, like I
Yeah.
said, Vegas over DC. So, notable performances from that week. Max Myler, 15-19, 157 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, no picks, and 2 on the ground.
Mhm.
Then Sneed for AZ, Dalton Sneed, 13-19, 195, 7 touchdowns, no picks, no touchdowns on the ground, all through the air. And Corey Reed, his receiver, 5 receptions, 100 yards. 3 of those were touchdowns. That's just craziness.
Mm.
And then finally, Sam Castronova, 28-38, 314, 6 touchdowns through the air, no interceptions, none on the ground. But Naquan Murray, 5 receptions, 96 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So those are your notable performances. But like I said, we were going to talk about something. And real quick, before I get too far ahead of myself, what were your takeaways? Any surprises or anything that you thought was noteworthy from that slate of games?
One in particular, I just find it funny how it seems like at this point we have it down to a science. Like things that the the fans don't expect, but we kind of almost predicted. They start to they seem like they're happening regularly now. I think it was you, like you said before, how San Diego needs to win at least one of those matchups against Bay Area. I personally didn't see it happening, but I've said a number of times, it's hard to beat a team twice. And I mean, it shows, especially in this league. You can't really call it. You seemed a lot more confident than I was about them pulling out one of those victories. And although, like you said, it came down to a missed field goal on Bay Area's part, it was nothing less than an interesting game for sure. If I had to choose one game I guess one game of the week for me, that would definitely be it. It was a lot going on, man. I gotta shout out the guy Johnson. I think is he wears number 7. I forget his first name, but he's one of their on the roster. He's listed as a backup quarterback, but at this point, he's just a utility player, man. He's like one of those guys I mentioned earlier in a previous episode. How he just embodies the what football is about, really. Not really getting down when you're not playing your primary position, quote unquote. But he can be utilized elsewhere. And he's doing it, man. He's played some receiver, he's played some running back. Just like I said, his natural position, quarterback, he's everywhere, man. He was a huge part of that victory they pulled out. So
Yeah, and I looked at the scores and of course watched the games, and there was never really any sort of turning point for some of those games. Like I said, Arizona had the lead the whole time, at
mhm.
least 3 of the 4 quarters. I'm not sure about, I can't recall the first. Some of the games I got too late, but 56-49, I mean, there's not really a spot in there where there was like a huge momentum shift or swing. Like Arizona knew the assignment.
Right.
But San Diego, Bay Area. Bay Area did have the lead at halftime, but it wasn't, like some 21-point lead. It was a one-score game, so you can't really
Mhm.
say that there was any sort of lost opportunities there. But props for San Diego for rallying back. Both quarterbacks, Neal and Davis, threw picks that game, so the defense has really stepped up good. and then
Yeah.
San Antonio over Mass. That's just saying, we got to win. We can't tie. We definitely can't lose if we want to punch our ticket to the postseason. So Naz, it's crazy to think that they're in the fourth spot and could potentially be out of the playoff picture by the end of it. But that
Yeah.
game against Arizona was one they needed. But that
Hmm.
brings us to the topic. Now, full disclosure, I completely understand kickers. The stereotype is that they have one job to do. They don't sometimes run the ball, they don't sometimes catch the ball like receivers and running backs. But at the same time, it's I can't tell you how many games I've been upset about because of a missed field goal or a made field goal if you're on the other end of it, or because of the refs making what we all considered a bad call. And so I've always said, don't leave it up to the refs. Don't rely on a make or a missed field goal. Put the game away when you have the chance to. But the more that I watch these games and the more I get familiar with it from your perspective as a player, is that football is a game of inches, but it's not meant to be literal. It's meant to be kind of, literal, metaphorical, figurative, as far as it's a game of inches where it will come down to the little things like a call in the second or a field goal in
Hmm.
the third or a field goal at the end of the game. So when as a player, when somebody said to you, can't leave it on the refs, or you can't, leave it up to your kicker or whatever. Like, how did that make you feel? Just because 60 minutes defined by 5 seconds or 3 seconds or one moment, really just kind of, I don't know, that would rub me the wrong way.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, and I could imagine how any team that faced with Bay Area faced just this past weekend uh could share those same your same sentiments for real. It's just it kind of feels like a slap in the face to doing your job, just drive after drive, and just for it to essentially not even matter. And I mean, I say that with a grain of salt because I know every play matters, but it's hard not to feel that way after taking a loss like that. I think ultimately that added pressure of kind of putting the game away early when you can is it can be a bit intimidating to some, but for players like myself, it kind of gives us a sense of pride almost. The coach trusts us enough to uh, challenge us with that task of putting the game away or you know just being that dominant presence enough when you are on the field so that it doesn't have to come down to something as trivial as a kick or just one drive. You want to do your job to the point where there's no questions asked or there's nothing left to be desired on any other phase of the ball. That's just how I've always looked at it as a defensive player, as a defensive minded guy.
You look at it from the other perspective and it's like it is like it that's an aspect of the game also, though, is special teams, is kicking, the refs and the calls. That's an aspect of the game too. For 60 minutes you have all these components that are churning together for what is football. And so I think people can be right, but also wrong when it comes to don't leave it to the refs and don't leave it up to your kicker or the other team's kicker to make or miss a field goal. But that is
Mm,
part of the game,
for
so it's
sure.
just it's just kind of tough to say that to people and be like, well, you can't do this or can't do that. It's like, but that's part of the game. So that was just something I kind of took away because, yeah, I did feel for Bay Area. I felt for every team that lost because of a missed field goal, which I don't think there were any that won because of a made field goal. So just way opposite of a week from what we had last week. But that
Mm.
is our weekly roundup for the IFL action. And as far as my power rankings and the coaches poll, we disagree on two teams. They have Vegas above Frisco, and I have Frisco above Vegas. But 14 weeks in, and we're different on how we feel. Two teams are ranked out of 16, so not too bad for us over here at the Fan Show. And that will bring us to our interview portion of the show, which today is not a player, it's not a coach, it's actually an unsung hero of the world of indoor football, representing the Green Bay Blizzard. That's right, folks. Welcome at this time, the voice of the Green Bay Blizzard, Joey B. Joey Bonadonna. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, 10-2. Team's doing pretty well. I mean, can't say that, if I walked into this season, I thought this team was going to be pretty good, but I wouldn't be saying at this point in the season, they'd be sitting at number one in your rankings, coaches poll. It's been a fun season to cover for sure.
Like me and Malcolm said, it's a beautiful thing. If you love indoor football, if you love this league, you love to see Green Bay be what they are right now, just firing on all cylinders, all aspects of the game. Roberson's got it clicking. You guys have an MVP candidate, Max Myler, who we called early in the season. I said, could he be the MVP? And right now it looks like he might have to compete with Sam Castronova,
Mhm.
who we thought maybe was the gimme for Offensive Player of the Year. But after their performance against Mass, he's right up there for MVP, especially if they make the postseason. So there's been a lot that's happened over the last few weeks, especially out west, but out east, you guys reign supreme. And, I love having guys like you, from the front office or, commentary booth,
Right.
things like that, because it's like when I used to have Joe Stacy of the Barnstormers
hmm
on. You guys just have a certain pulse on the team and everything right now. So this is, I believe, the first playoff appearance since either 2018 or 2019. And,
19. Yep, it was 19.
how's it feel?
Yeah.
Like what's the mood around the locker room, around the fan base, just everything like that?
I mean, honestly, so that 2019 team, that team went 9-5 in the regular season, and that felt like unbelievable because
Yeah.
obviously, like the 2 years prior, it was back-to-back two-win seasons, and it was just like getting that jump up to a 9-win season was awesome. Corey won Coach of the Year. Getting back to the playoffs, hosting playoff football was great. Then obviously losing in the first round, a game that Blizzard had the lead with a minute to go with the football, fumbling it away and giving Tommy Armstrong and Sap Lynch and that danger team a chance to go take the win at the end. That stung. That absolutely stung. And then all that team kind of came back for 2020, and then there was no season. The mantra that we always go with is one more, and this week it's one more against the Quad City Steamwheelers, and obviously we saw last a few weeks ago when Kevin was on the show, like he said they still got to see us, and we do. We got to see them this week, and it'll be a fun one down there in Moline.
Yeah, I do recall that 2019 season very well. I had been doing my annual awards for the fan show because there's like five more categories that I'll put out there that the league won't, for like best broadcaster or call of the year, stuff like that, things that I think deserve a little spotlight or appreciation. And people were so convinced, well, by people I mean the Rattlers fan base, that Kevin Guy was going to get coach of the year. And I was like, you're out of your mind. Like it, it's expected that Kevin Guy leads this team to the playoffs, and what Roberson has done in Green Bay is nobody saw that, and it's really something to watch him take that Green Bay team to the playoffs for the first time, and I think it was an even longer drought that time. So,
Yeah, I think it was 2012. That was the last time
yeah,
that they. So
Mm.
it was 7 years since then, and you got to remember that was his first year as full-time head coach. He was the interim the year before. Then that was his first team that he could really put together by himself. Brought guys in like Marquez Goldman. That was a great player on that. That's why Bakari Triggs won Defensive Rookie of the Year that year. He really established his style of ball, his defense. Lenoris Footman, quarterback. And that was a fun team to cover, but it's been trending upwards since. I mean, having to start back from square one, you can see they've been close. And the last 3 years, it feels like the last month of the season, they've been in that playoff discussion.
yeah, you guys have had some studs over the years. It's crazy that, when we started this thing back up for this year, I was like, I don't know if I know anybody from Green Bay, and that'll be a first, to be honest. But, we knew that Max had returned, MVP caliber season. He's just a stud on that offense. So, really great things for Green Bay. I will say this, though. I remember vividly that playoff game. And if there's one piece of advice for you as the voice of the Blizzard, is to not do what Alex did in that game, which was say, say we're going,
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
moving on to the next round, and then next play fumble.
Yep. Yep.
It's just,
That
oh,
I always say don't run out of shotgun in under a minute to go, but then every time I very rarely I go back and watch that game because it's just so painful for me. Yeah, I still give Alex a little bit of grief for that because yeah, I remember we had actually pulled together a stat before the game of how many days it had been since the Blizzard had been in the playoffs. It was something like, thousands of days, something like that. And he asked me like, "Hey, do you have that number? Pull it." I was like right out of break. You have that number? You can pull it up. I'm like, yeah, I got it right here. First play out of the 1 minute warning, botch snap to Footman. Nebraska picks
Oh
it up.
man.
I think they ended up taking a field goal. Like there was still a shot at the end. There was a throw to the end zone that just missed Keyshawn Taylor, and yeah, that one was one we go back on, and yeah, there's no other words for it other than it stung. I mean, for me, I'm obviously growing up here in Green Bay, big Packers fan. It took me longer to get over that game than the 2015 NFC Championship game against Seattle. It took me any heartbreaking loss that I've experienced as a fan. It took me longer to get over that Nebraska. And still, until they win a playoff game, I still don't know if I'll be truly over. Yeah, it's one of those games.
all right, Malk, I'll hand it over to you to talk to Mr. Joey B here and get his thoughts on what's on your mind.
For sure, man. Joey B, what's going on, brother? You already had a warm welcome from Rich, but like you said, very nice to meet you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, man, for sure. I'm definitely interested in hearing, just picking your brain a little bit as
For
a
sure.
side of the puzzle that we haven't had a chance to speak to too often on here. You said earlier about how you guys like the stat that you looked up and the 1,000 or so days out of the playoffs and stuff like that. And just like I know on your end with the coverage and stuff, it takes a lot to a lot of research. And I've
Mhm.
actually spoke to one of my guys, Daryl Stoneham, in Duke City. He's former NFL guy, played receiver for Duke City for some time. He actually said to me in a conversation that converting to doing like the media and coverage side of the team it actually took a lot more preparation than preparing as a player. So for you, how much preparation goes into like coverage and like doing the commentary and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually here on my desk, I have this right in front of me. I put together one of these like every week.
Oh
It's just a
man.
spot chart of, every guy who's on the field, um, position, height, weight, where they went to school, experience, stats on the year, stats from last week, little tidbits like I think I got Kevin Ransom on here. He played baseball in high school. Yeah, I have
Oh
that on
man.
there. So like little tidbits like that I have on there. Season schedule, where they rank in the league in terms of any team stat, coach's record, things like that. So one of those every week for both teams, and then just trying to find those tidbits like that. If there's an interesting storyline to follow, like one from this past week was Blizzard have never been on a 6 game winning streak since that 2012 season. You find a lot of interesting things that you might not ever use, but it's nice to have. Like I've never put on a broadcast in our 8 games this season that Kevin Ransom played baseball in high school, but I have it in case something of the nature comes up.
I see, I see. And I could definitely say from the perspective of a listener, like from the outside looking in, it definitely does make the game a lot more enjoyable hearing some refreshing commentary opposed to just, you know, guys just back and forth about what's going on the field. Of course you want to know what's going on, but just hearing, like you said, those interesting tidbits and fun facts definitely makes it a lot more engaging and fun for sure. For you as someone who does the coverage, how long did it take you to really get used to the game speed and calling things as you see it while also, like you said, mentioning those fun facts and things about players?
Yeah, so I mean, my first broadcast experience actually was with the Blizzard when I was the color commentator for Alex back in 2019. So I was new to the game, so that this is kind of where I got my start. and I didn't really know anything different. I kind of got that first year opportunity to see how everything adjusted, and then after that, I mean, 2021, I took over as play by play, so I was kind of ready from that first year of just feeling things out. But yeah, definitely the indoor game is it's interesting. It almost feels like a hybrid of football and then hockey because I
Mm-hmm.
mean it's smaller, it's faster paced, it's things like that. And this year I'm at UW Madison and I get to broadcast a little bit of hockey and that kind of helps just trying to figure out the speed of the game and then have that translate over once March kicks off. I'm a football nut. I grew up here in Green Bay. Football is a part of me, and now be able to have this year round over the last few years is it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine, man. That's good stuff. Good stuff for sure.
You're at the Green Bay game and they're playing whoever they're playing, and you're the voice of the Blizzard. And so you technically have every right to be as biased as you want on the call, but at the same time, you are the voice that people who are
Mhm.
not there, which is probably majority of the opposing team, are
Right.
tuning in and hearing. And so I remember talking with like Stacy and Rusty and a few others and asking them, like, how do you gauge how you call a game? And they said, well, I mean, it's not necessarily that we understand that we're who they're hearing, and that's it's either us or nobody, or the mute button, but it's like we call the game with the energy that we feel the game and the plays deserve. If it's a great play, how did you approach that? When did it click? And how have you kind of adapted how you call accordingly?
Yeah, I think that you know I can definitely understand that frustration. There have been a few times on my side that there are times where I'm just I starting to go down a path where I'm like I disagree with the call or something of that nature. I'm kind of just you got to reel it in. I feel like in situations like that you can be a little biased because obviously you are under you're the voice of the blizzard, the barnstormers, the storm, things like that. But I totally agree with what you just said is that if it's a good call or a good play, you give it its props. Like there was a play last week where I think Peyton rolled out and the pass got tipped like two or three times and it got caught by Stoshak for a touchdown. And that play was pretty cool too. And you had to give it its props, give it its energy, its boost. But then when there's a big play by one-handed pick by Rivers, you give in my give it a little bit more juice. That's for sure. So it is interesting and it's something that not necessarily weighs on you, but something you got to pay a little bit of attention to and know that your audience is, like you said, mostly the visiting audience.
Well, good on you, man. I know, like I said, it's a very tough gig because I think a lot of people feel like it should be one way, but in the reality, it's like it's the opposite. It's all right though. I think you've done a phenomenal job out there, even with the early audio issues. You guys have still had stellar broadcasts. So my last question for you is, from your perspective as a guy who's been part of this squad for 5 years, seen the ups and downs, what is it about this team? What is it that is clicking for this Roberson team that didn't click when he had Taylor and Footman and Hill and those guys?
There's no quitting these guys, and I think there have been multiple situations where, someone's gone down. There's a big next man up mentality. Guys that go down in the middle of a game, just with a little injury here and there, and someone's ready on the bench, ready to go. This is a team that's filled with rookies. I mean, we mentioned a few guys that are back, but there's no true IFL veterans on this roster. The most experience is Rafiq Abdul Wahid, who's in his third season with us. But outside of that, we got a bunch of first, second, and third year guys, and everyone's just raring and ready to go for their opportunity to go out and make a play. And it's just winning that one more game. That is the mindset of this team, play in, play out, week in, week out. I think losing that game to Massachusetts week one that was the biggest wake up call you could get. When it comes to the fourth quarter, someone's got to step up and make the play to win. And everyone on this roster has done it to that point. So it's exciting to see. It's refreshing. These guys know that it's one step at a time, and they have not wavered from that since. And I'm excited to see how it goes this week. Going down to Moline, obviously an opportunity to sweep the regular season series.
With the playoff spot being locked up, is there any kind of whatsoever of just the weight being lifted, or like, we win, we win. If not, like we're still in it, or can you not have that at this
I
point?
don't think so. I think there's obviously you're fighting for this week, trying to win one more game to get a home playoff game. You got to stay stride for stride with Frisco. You can, go 3 or 4 down the stretch and still get home field advantage. But I mean, why not go 4 for 4? But again, you got to take it one step at a time. And the first step right now is win this game. You clinch a home playoff game over Massachusetts. You sweep the season series again. There's always just something that you're playing for that week.
Awesome stuff. Well, Joey, we appreciate you filling in this week. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to sit down with Max in the coming weeks. But it's been so great as an IFL fan, just indoor football fan, to see Green Bay and having the season that they're having. Especially, they're one of the teams that when I started covering the league, it was, they were a staple. And I've been there. Love you guys over in Wisconsin and that whole fan base and that squad. So it's just definitely good times to see it finally coming together for him. So one more time for Mr. Joey B, the voice of the Green Bay Blizzard, enjoying the ride that they're currently on as they are the first one in the entire league to lock up a playoff seed. And now it's just about finishing the rest of their business. So Joey, thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it.
Finishing Blizness, Rich.
Finishing business.
Listeners, I
Absolutely.
like it.
I appreciate you having me on, Rich. Good to meet you, Malk. And yeah,
Let's see, man, for
looking forward
sure.
to tuning in every week.
All right. Thanks again, Joey. We'll talk to you later. And one more big thank you to Joey B, Joey Bonadonna, for joining us here. It's nice to have some perspective from, not just players and coaches around the league. Everybody plays an integral part in teams. I would know if it wasn't for me, then Beef wouldn't have won their first championship. I'm okay with that. It's a heavy burden. It's a heavy one, but
Oh, man.
Coach did call me his lucky charm. No one can ever take that away from me. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it, Malk.
Hey, I would ride that one to the wheels fall off, man. You got it.
All right, that brings us to one of our favorite portions of the show is pick 'em. And because I'm the generous guy that I am, Malcolm and I both went 1 for 1 as far as I got one of mine right. He got one of his right. And the scores, they weren't all that close, but close enough where he's just like, maybe I should just give him a pass. He's been through it this week, and in all honesty, going through this episode, I think it's punishment enough that his zip up is matching his comforter on his bed.
Hey.
So I couldn't even have picked a punishment that good for you. But ladies, there you have it. Malk's gonna come at you and be like, if you think this is good, you should see what my bed's covered with.
That's a pickup line right there. He's like, "Oh, this is comfortable. You should see my bed."
Oh man.
That's the one.
I'm assuming that his phone's been burning up after his karaoke, which I Want It That Way was the winner. I cannot wait to see
Uh,
that video. So we will give Malk a pass for being such a good sport all season. I know that it was an idea I came up with and kind of threw him into, but we've had fun
mm,
with it. I've owned up to mine. He's owned up to his. So now we're back to picking them again. Fresh start, clean slate.
mm,
And so we start with Saturday. We have no Friday games. So week 15, Saturday, Massachusetts on the road taking on Jacksonville. I mean, I want to say Mass should win this. You
mm,
and I both like Jacksonville, but at the same time, like I think Mass just needs to win this. They've really been reeling as of late, and as much as I like the Sharks, I just don't think that they've got enough in the tank, even at home, to upset a probably very angry and pissed off Pirates team. So I will take Massachusetts.
I like Mass in this one too. First of all, I like what you did there. So you said you don't think the Sharks have enough in the tank. I don't
It's
know
a
if that was
gift.
intentional, but I liked it. I liked it. No, for sure. I think Mass will get this one too, man, for sure. I know they're definitely pissed off about their loss this past week, and they're looking to, kind of secure their spot right now a little more.
Yeah, and Iowa's win over Quad City didn't change anything necessarily. It just didn't make anything better for anybody involved. I mean, now
Mm,
you've got, I think, a one
okay.
game difference between Tulsa, Iowa, Quad City, even Sioux Falls now. And if
Mm,
Mass loses again, they could be in danger of not just losing their number three seed, but being knocked out altogether. So we
right.
both like
Yeah,
Mass
so
to get it
losing state.
right. All right, next Saturday matchup. This one should be interesting, especially because both teams coming off of a win and both teams realizing that they are, in fact, still in the mix. It's the Tulsa Oilers going to Iowa to take on the Barnstormers. Malk, who you like in this one?
I like Tulsa. I like Tulsa for sure. They always compete. They're definitely going to put on a good show against Iowa. I think they're the better team, so I'm taking Tulsa for sure.
Yeah, I'm not knocking Iowa. I just think that
Mm,
Tulsa getting that win over Sioux Falls was bigger than Iowa getting the win over Quad City. Big
mm,
win for the Oilers. We think they keep it going, so we both like Tulsa. Our next Saturday game, we just talked to the voice of this team. It is the Green Bay Blizzard, the only team as of right now playoff bound. They take on rival Quad City. And oh man, I don't think there's a pick we can make that's not going to upset somebody on this one. But
mm.
hey, I will say this though. I don't like when I feel that things are this way with teams that I like, and that being if I pick against Quad City, they win, and if I pick them, they lose.
Mm.
I don't like it. I don't. But I am aware that can be the case sometimes. So I'm going to pick
Yeah.
Green Bay, knowing that Green Bay is already locked up their playoff spot. Now it's just a matter of seeding, which is still important. But if I pick them and it happens to be true that picking against Quad City means that they win, well, then that helps out Quad City in their postseason push. So I will pick Green Bay.
You just have to put that out there
Yes,
for
I
the
did.
Quad
Yes.
City fans watching. Hey, the good old rich curse, man.
Oh, geez, don't start that.
With that being said, I'll go ahead and pick Quad City, man.
Oh,
We had Rudd on here last week. They I think Rudd along with his guys, they know that this is one that they have to pull out to uh keep themselves in a pretty good position. In Green Bay, you mentioned it when we were talking to Joey, but it's easy to say. I think he gave you the answer that he's supposed to say on something like this. They're not taking their foot off the gas. But as a player, after a long season, knowing that you clinched a playoff spot, it's almost inevitable that you're gonna kind of let up just a bit. Obviously they still want to win, but it's not. I don't think it's so much. I don't think it's as important to them to win as it is for Quad City at this point.
yeah, and I totally agree. I think if it was a one game race right now, which it's close, but they still have a little bit of breathing room with Frisco. So they can afford to lose one. I just don't think that you necessarily want to lose one, but you're right. It's been a
Right.
long season. Your postseason fate is sealed. So now it's about playing. Are you going to host a game? Are you going to get a bye or however that works? So I get it, but yeah, I mean, it's been a long season. So
Yeah.
I also wanted to make sure that I said how I picked this game very specifically because Rudd's receipts. I don't want that smoke, man. I just don't. I don't need to be his receipt of the week. So
Oh
we're gonna play
yeah.
it safe on that. Rudd gets it. Man, I love talking to him. Okay, so Malk likes Quad City. I like Green Bay.
Mm,
All right. Next Saturday game. Oh boy, this one Bay Area and Duke City, in Duke City. So Bay Area coming off a tough loss to San Diego. Duke City changing things up with the coaching staff, going different routes with the quarterback. I mean, they're throwing everything at the wall right now and seeing if it sticks. I don't know if I necessarily agree with making a coaching change at this point in the season, but I
Mm,
guess if you do you, Duke City. So
mm,
um, I will defer to you because I know how much you
for
love
sure.
your gladiators, but time to be real, Malk.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love the Gladiators. I love Albuquerque. I love, the front office, but it's being real, man. Bay Area got them for sure. And just to touch on what you said a little bit about Duke City and their late coaching staff changes and stuff. Gina Presco and Thomas, the owner of the Gladiators, she's a realist, sweetest lady alive, but she loves football. She's front and center at all the games. She's talking her talk. You can't get her to sit down during the games. She one thing she loves uh outside of the players themselves is the team, and she loves Albuquerque. She wants to see them. She wants to give Albuquerque what she feels like they deserve, and that's a winning team. Nonetheless, Bay Area is gonna win, and I'd say that without a shadow of a doubt. So, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
We both agree. Duke City will not be the one that bites Malcolm in the ass this week. So we both pick Bay Area. I like the Panthers to win. So the next game, this is my interesting game of the week. Sioux Falls in Frisco, and it's
Mm,
because Sioux Falls is kind of like Quad City, where I just never know from one week to the next. Like, are they going to win this, or are they not? Like, are they outmatched, or are they going to go toe to toe? And with Frisco, though, they have become one of the quietest third or fourth ranked teams ever, just like with Vegas. But Vegas was because of a losing streak they went on. But Frisco is just like they're not being talked about as much. And I'm not sure if that should be a
mm.
red flag or what. But this is, I feel like, a game to watch. And it's one that Frisco definitely needs to win. Sioux Falls is going to go in there looking to win because they know that they're still technically in it after Iowa beat Quad Cities. So there's a lot that can happen here. I will go with Frisco, the home team.
For sure, I like that. I like that. I'm going Frisco as well. I definitely agree. And just to kind of touch on what you said about them not getting, they're kind of like a under the radar team who is sneaking into those spots and just taking their time with it seemingly. I think that's right where they want to be.
All right, so we both like Frisco in that one. Then the next Saturday game, another Super Saturday on the
Mhm.
schedule here for Week 15 is Arizona and Vegas. So this is a rematch from Week 2 when Arizona stunned the Rattlers with a walk-off field goal and went on the longest winning streak of the season. I mean, at least pending what Green Bay does, but they were the sole remaining undefeated team in the IFL. And now we're at a very different point in the season where both are coming off of wins they both needed. Vegas to snap their losing streak, and Arizona just to keep pace with San Diego and San Antonio, and now apparently Northern Arizona. So no big surprise here as far as who I'm picking. I'm going to go with Vegas.
I was about to say I could have picked for you. I knew you were gonna say that. Um, I would love to say Vegas. I really would, but it's hard to say that with confidence. Arizona seems to be catching fire at the perfect time of the season. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Arizona, man. I like the Rattlers with this one. No.
Malcolm doesn't just like the Rattlers. He likes that if he beats me in Pick'em, it's partly because he picked the Rattlers to win,
That's it.
which
That's it. I'm hoping that's what it comes down to.
he
Because
knows it stings that much more for me. Our last Saturday game is the San Diego Strike Force, fresh off a win against the Tucson Sugar Skulls, who have not seen a win in quite some time. And Malk, I'll
mm,
leave it to you to pick this one first. I know you got a soft spot for both teams, so this should be interesting.
for sure. Definitely get a soft spot for both the guys, but at this point I'm just being real, man. not really leaving too much to hope these days because I mean, obviously that hasn't been working out for me. Having lost the Pick'ems 3 weeks in a row almost. I'm taking San Diego. You know, it's just like we said earlier, Tucson just they have to find a way to get it together, and San Diego is not the team to help them get it together.
Yeah, I'm going to take San Diego as well. Their win against Bay Area was huge because I said if they play
Yeah,
them twice, they need to get at least one of them. But this one is huge because this is a game that you're supposed to win, right? And
yeah,
so to
yeah.
keep pace with Naz and Arizona and San Antonio, like you got to have this game. If you don't, you might as well just give your playoff spot to one of the other teams because I mean,
Hmm.
what does that say really? So we both like San Diego. That'll bring us to our Week 15 finale, the lone Sunday game, and this will be a good one. This very well could be as far as that fourth and final spot in the West. Like this game could determine it. It's when the San Antonio Gunslingers take on the Northern Arizona Wranglers in a battle for best cowboy outlaw logo, which in my opinion is the Gunslingers. They have the superior logo, but really it is
Yeah.
about so much more. I said that if San Antonio won their first three from when we, did that outlook on the Eastern and Western Conference, that they would be the ones. This is the third one, and it is a huge
Hmm.
one now with Naz losing to Arizona. And so, really, if the Gunslingers win, they could be in the postseason with Arizona, and Naz could be out entirely.
Yeah.
That's where the point we've reached in the season. So this one, huge implications. I'm going to take San Antonio because I need to back up what I've been saying as far as what they need to do to get to the postseason. But we'll see what Malcolm
Mm.
says for who he likes in this one.
Man, so and you know I have to speak from the experience of a player. That's the only perspective that I know personally. So I'm gonna take Nash, and I'm gonna tell you why. Like you said, this can potentially determine the ultimate trajectory of how the rest of their season goes, whether they make it to the postseason or not. At this point in the season, people are banged up, people are tired. It's just that's just how the game goes. You know that attrition sets in, and it's hard to ignore that as a factor. So it a lot of times doesn't come down to who has the better athletes. It comes down to who wants it more, and that want to can be sparked and sent in an overdrive by the thought of not making a postseason. You know, I've been there before. I've seen it, and I think Naz they know their backs against the wall right now. They know that they have to win this game. They know that it's like I said, it can potentially be the end of their postseason hopes if they don't. They have a lot of weapons on that team, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm definitely taking Naz in this one.
All right, so we're different on three games, including the Week 15 finale, which, I mean, this is the game of the week, plain and simple, because
Easily.
regardless of if San Diego and Arizona win or lose, these teams need to win this game in order to keep their postseason hopes alive. So Malk and I will be glued to that. That will do it for our pick'em. And don't forget that you can see us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. New episodes every Wednesday. Or at least we try to get them every Wednesday. Stuff happens. So sometimes it's Thursday morning. But
Stuff
you
happens,
can hear us in podcast form on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. And then every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Express Radio, which is at live365.com. So, Mal, this has been a good one. I still cannot get over your zip up and comforter combo, man.
I think
That
I'm gonna
is
make this a thing now. I'm gonna have to find some more combinations. I got. I think I'm liking this a little too much.
he shows up in plaid next week. He's got a flannel button up and flannel sheets. It's just, oh my God. Oh, and I'll be
It's
like, what have
coming.
I
It's coming.
done? What have I started? Okay.
Oh
So
man.
once again, he is Father Malk, as ridiculously dressed and coordinated as he is. We love him. You see him all the time, and he will have a karaoke video for us on the social very
Oh
shortly.
man.
And I am, as always, the T-Man, Richard T-Man. This has been episode 492 of the Fan Show. So once again, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.